Welcome to this episode of the Aquarist Edge, a podcast for home aquarists just like you. Learn more about how to keep a thriving aquarium and discover ideas and tips to give your aquarium the edge. And now, over to our host, Arthur Preston.
Today we're going to talk about a topic that I think will resonate with many of us as aquarium hobbyists, and that is how to keep costs down in this very addictive hobby. It's really difficult to walk into your fish shop and walk out without spending some cash, either on a fish that you've seen, a piece of equipment for your tank, a new filter, something that just catches your eye, something that's new you haven't seen before. Fish keeping is one of those hobbies that certainly draws you in, and one tank becomes two tanks, becomes three tanks, and so on. That's very real. Ask anyone who has had to convert a room into a fish room or a garage into a fish room. And all of that costs money. And so it's important for us to look for ways in which we can minimize costs without compromising the quality of our aquariums or our enjoyment of the hobby. So if you're just starting out, or if you are someone who's been doing this for a long time, I'm hoping that these 10 tips and tricks that I will give you today will help in some way to keeping your costs down. So let's get into it. The most obvious one is to start with a smaller tank. Yes, there are people who are going to say, buy the biggest tank you can afford. That is true, but let's not forget that along with that tank will come all the other equipment that you need to set up your tank and all the livestock to go in it. So start with a smaller tank. I really wouldn't suggest you start any smaller than a 20 litre. That's a 5 gallon for our non-metric friends. And that's a great choice for beginner aquarists. Smaller tanks require less substrate, fewer decorations, less water, which means lower initial costs and easier maintenance. On top of that, smaller tanks are often more manageable for new fish keepers, allowing them to learn about water chemistry and fish care without feeling overwhelmed. Another way to cut costs is to make your own filters and other equipment. There are loads of tutorials on YouTube and TikTok and other social media platforms that will give you step-by-step instructions on how to do this using things that are lying around your house, such as plastic bottles. These can make highly effective low-cost filtration systems. Just make sure that any DIY project that you take up is safe and suitable for your fish. And of course, always test your equipment before introducing it into your aquarium. Another way is to save money is to save your water. We are so conscious that water is the very substance in which our animals and fish live, and we want it to be of the highest quality. So the temptation is to go out and buy loads of chemical additives, lots of things that are going to take out chlorine, and that remains important. But if you leave your water out in a bucket for 24 hours, the chlorine will evaporate and you'll be left with water that you can place into your tank. So go ahead and do that. Make sure that you are not necessarily having to spend loads of money on all these other chemicals. Also make sure that you cover your tanks. Make sure that you reduce evaporation as much as possible. That will reduce obviously the amount of water that you're needing to top up your tanks with on a regular basis. Monitoring your water usage helps you not only save money, but conserve this very precious resource. Lighting is often one of the most expensive costs in fish keeping. So make sure that you're using energy-efficient LED lights. They last longer than traditional bulbs and they save power. They provide the right spectrum for plant growth, most of them anyway, and they generate less heat, which can help maintain stable water temperatures in your aquarium. Bear in mind that some of the cheaper LED lights may not have an exact spectrum for the growth of your top quality, high quality plants, and they may in fact exacerbate algae growth in your aquarium. But they're still a great start, and if you monitor your tank on a regular basis, do your maintenance, that shouldn't be a problem. Certainly for a beginner or a person who just wants a simple aquarium in their house, they're absolutely fine. So go ahead and switch to LEDs. Talking of things in your tank, plants. Choose cleverly when it comes to your plants. Choose hardy, low-maintenance plants like Java fern or Anubias. These plants are often less expensive and they can thrive in lots of conditions without needing specialized fertilizers and other additives. You can also make sure that you propagate your own plants. Instead of buying new plants, learn how to propagate the ones you already have. Many aquatic plants can easily be propagated by cutting them and replanting them in your tank. Speak to friends and family who also have tanks and swap various cuttings. You can add a heck of a lot of variety into your tank just by speaking to other people and involving yourself in some kind of aquarium cutting swapping. That way you can develop a really lush aquatic landscape without having to go and spend a lot of money on new plants. Of course, you can also go out and buy used equipment. Just make sure that if you're going to buy a tank, for example, that you've checked it thoroughly for cracks. I would even say if you're going to a thrift shop or a place that sells second-hand goods, ask them to fill the aquarium for you and watch to see that there are not any cracks and any leaks that may have developed. Any equipment that you buy that is second-hand, just make sure that you've cleaned it and sanitized it before introducing it into your aquarium. Buying second-hand is a great way to save money, but just be careful and choose wisely. It may be tempting to fill your tank with lots of fish, but overcrowding can lead to increased maintenance costs and health issues for your fish. Start with a few hardy species and gradually add more as you become comfortable managing your tank. This approach helps to maintain water quality and reduces the risk of disease outbreaks that could lead to having to treat your fish with very costly medicine. Yes, there are also DIY options for treating sick fish, and that'll be the topic of another podcast. But some of the commercial medications are very expensive. Many of them are, in fact, some of the better ones are imported, so they do add up. You could also go ahead and make your own fish food. There are loads of tutorials for this online, be it YouTube, blog posts, and so forth. I'll leave a link to one or two in the show notes for you. It's pretty easy to do this. You use ingredients like peas and spinach, sometimes some meat protein that can provide your fish with nutritious meals without the hefty price tag of commercial products. Just make sure that any food you make is done in a way that is appropriate for your specific species, because different fish have obviously different dietary needs. Another way to save money is by using natural materials found in your local environment, such as driftwood or rocks. Many times we'll walk into a pet shop and we'll see a nice piece of artificial rock or a decor item, and it's tempting to just put that into your shopping trolley. But a lot of those items are quite expensive, and many of them are in fact imported. When there's really natural, lovely items lying around your garden, your local community, just make sure that you thoroughly clean these and boil them before adding them to your tank to eliminate any harmful bacteria or contaminants. This tip not only saves money, but also adds a unique touch to your aquarium setup, as what you will find in your garden will be unique. I've certainly done this many a time in my own garden, in the areas around my house. I've gone out and I've looked for interesting pieces of wood, interesting stones with, sometimes they've got little hiding spaces. You can make little caves out of them. And certainly this is a heck of a lot cheaper than buying the commercially produced decor items, or even buying natural decor items from your pet shop. In summary then, keeping an aquarium doesn't need to be a very expensive endeavor. Yes, there are going to be inherent costs in keeping an aquarium, that is for sure, but we can certainly keep those costs down by implementing some of these, if not all of these, 10 cost-saving tips that I've shared today. Let's just do a quick recap on what they were. Number 1, start small with a smaller tank. Number 2, consider using DIY or making DIY aquarium equipment. 3, use your water wisely. Number 4, switch to energy-efficient LED lighting. 5, choose hardy plants. 6, propagate your plants. 7, buy used equipment or second-hand equipment. 8, limit overstocking. Don't put all the fish you can straight into your tank. Number 9, make your own fish food. And number 10, use natural decor from your local environment. By being resourceful and creative, you can certainly cut costs without compromising the quality of your aquarium or the enjoyment of this really rewarding hobby.
That's it for this episode of the Aquarist Edge. Please consider subscribing to this podcast so that you don't miss further episodes. We would love it if you would also rate and review the podcast, as this helps make it visible to others. Until next time, keep learning and discovering, and keep finding your Aquarist Edge in this captivating and fascinating hobby.